Hello and welcome to PubShorts episode 84, titled Too Much Information. My name is Dr. KK. I think I provide too much information when I speak, which Tony, you have critiqued. And I'm the innovation officer at Trinka and Inago. And Tony, please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm Vice President for Partnerships here at Inago. And welcome to PubShorts, which is a regular podcast which KK and I record where we discuss topics, technology, policy, lots of things relating to the world of research communication. And today's episode is called Too Much Information. For those of you who watch this podcast on a regular basis, you will know we like to sort of give a title to an episode that's based on a British pop song, pop rock song. KK and I are both mildly music obsessed. And today's episode there's actually a number of, it's called Too Much Information. There's two choices for this. You've either got the song by Duran Duran, which is, I don't particularly like the song very much, which tackles data deluge, because we're basically, the song doesn't tackle data deluge, but the topic that we're discussing is data deluge unleashed by AI. There's also a version of a song called Too Much Information by the Police, which frankly I prefer, which again is the same thing. You know, it's all about concerns, AI, literacy programs, masking deeper information, literacy gaps, to campus chariots, outpacing curricula, updates, voluntary disclosure debates, and bot knocking digital collections offline. And we just explore how educators and institutions need to go sift from noise to signal, in order to keep scholarship credible.
It's amazing how you can keep all that information. It's like it's almost
it's like I'm reading something, isn't it? Almost.
And it's too much information, and you are able to communicate it so effectively. So, as Tony,
I've already forgotten what I said.
which is a very, very good place to be when you're talking such things. But anyway, so PubShorts is an episodic podcast series, and all our previous 83 episodes are available on our YouTube channel, which you can find by searching for Inago on YouTube and finding the PubShorts playlist. And Tony and I strongly recommend, if you want to keep up with the scholarly publishing industry and AI and technology, it's a good idea to just let it be in the played in the background. Maybe
I was looking at the previous episode. We've talked about nearly 1,000 different articles since we started on PubShorts, which is staggering. So if you want to find out more about those 1,000 different articles, I urge you to go back to episode 1,
right,
and watch every episode.
Excellent. So are you ready, Tony, for the first story?
What if I say no?
Well,
yes.
There will no. I don't have a choice, but we have to move and we have to ascend.
Let's start.
All right. So the first story is from Ithaca SNR. Is AI literacy the Trojan horse for information literacy? I got something on my watch. Let me stop that. Okay, great. So sorry about that. So this article is from Ithaca SNR discussing AI literacy in education. So we are talking about workshops that were held to explore AI and information literacy, and compared AI frameworks with ACRL information literacy, which is American. I forget what ACRL stands for. Do you remember?
ACRL stands for the American College Research Libraries.
Yeah, right. The key differences noted between conceptual and practical frameworks in this workshops, and AI literacy was seen as part of a broader information literacy, and AI challenges traditional views of information creation, and we have talked about many facets of this, and there are technical and ethical aspects of AI, and the final call is for critical engagement with AI generated information, which is also what we recommend. AI assistance in all forms. The audience or the persons or the people who are using need to be aware of the fact that it's an AI that is creating the information, and in the context of research outputs, authors are finally responsible for whatever content that they might have created with the help of AI. Your thoughts, Tony?
Absolutely. I think what we're going to see over the next 12 to 24 months is increasing granularity and information requests by publishers, by research societies, research funders, in terms of how AI is being used, not just acknowledgements that it's being used, but much deeper explanations about how the AI is used and where it's being used. And I think Ithaca once again highlights the kind of the primary issues around AI literacy in education, and pretty gives a clear call to action.
Right. And moving on to a related story, this is from Big Think. It's an article titled AI is already in the classroom. It is time that colleges caught up, which is worrisome, at least the title. So AI is becoming a staple in education, and it is much like the analogy used. It's very interesting. Much like calculators and the internet, they have been incorporated. So many universities, Tony, have outdated policies on AI, relying on flaw detection tools as well. So AI content detection.
Keiko, I told you about my experience I went to the ACRL conference earlier this year, the Association of College and Research Libraries, and I had institutions coming up to me and saying, "Look, here we are. I'm providing a central service for my entire institution. On one hand, I've got this department, let's say the philosophy department or the theology department, saying complete ban on the use of Gen AI in any way, shape, and form in research. And in the building next door, in the business school, in the medical school, whatever it might be, I've got the school." Mandating the use of AI, because they're saying, look, you're going to be using these tools in the workplace, so let's get you using these tools now, make really purposeful. So if you've got that sort of diverging sort of approaches in a single institution, the work of the research department is to bring those departments closer together, so you have got a single unified approach, but it will never work for everybody, unfortunately.
Right. So this article is from the point of view of turning around the people in the first room that you mentioned who are resistant to AI adoption. So this resistance is mirroring the past hesitations in terms of integrating technology in the classroom, maybe even including internet and laptops to a certain extent. And the main message is banning AI or the artificial intelligence would not stop its use or misuse, for that matter. It'll only drive it underground, which is a problem. Anything that you ban will likely create a market for.
Listen, I remember as a student when I was a school student, I was in the year of my school, which was kind of between the end of the logbook, with the logarithmic tables, tans, cosines, and that crap. All that stuff. And the introduction of scientific calculators. My year was one of the last years where logbooks had to be used and calculators were not allowed to be used. Within 5 years, nobody knew how to use the logbook. So it's all about using the tools that are available to you and making best use of those tools, but still understanding what it is you're trying to achieve.
Yes, excellent point. And Tony, the final sort of driving point of this article would be that AI can be a powerful educational tool and an aid if used correctly, and it can use learning experiences as well. And one of the principles behind many of the things that we work for is to ensure that the AI usage, let's say by the students in education institutions and maybe by peer reviewers in the context of peer review, is done responsibly and ethically. And some of the things that, like for example, you probably have talked to instructors and educators about DocuMark, and we have a program called Responsible AI. All of this is with the same core theme in terms of responsible use of AI, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And listen, I'd love to hear from educators in terms of how they're using AI responsibly, examples of how AI can be used responsibly and still encourage that whole learning process for the student. So there's a lot still to be done.
All right. So if Tony, if somebody is interested in knowing more about Responsible AI or DocuMark, where can they find out?
Well, Responsible AI movements and DocuMark, you simply need to Google either of those things. They'll take you to the inago.com page where we give you more information. And I really would encourage you to sign up to the Responsible AI movement, because it's all about trying to establish what best practice should be in the use of AI in generating research content.
All right, so moving on to the next AI-themed story. This is from the London School of Economics. Most AI researchers reject free use of public data to train AI models. So it is as the title indicates, this survey basically shows that only a quarter of AI researchers support free use of public data, and the concerns are about copyright and fair use, which are central to AI training debate. Now, the UK government current proposals are at odds with the researchers' views. Researchers and the public agree on AI risk, but differ on the responsibilities of safe use of AI in terms of training. And there's a call for public involvement in AI research processes, but with limitations. So the whole point is, the ethics of what is fair in terms of data for training AI, and in terms of at least the principles that we use in terms of using the user data in terms of training our models for our flagship AI writing assistant Trinka, we are very clear about how we use our data, and we are very transparent about it, aren't we?
Yeah, and we have to be, and rightly so as well. When I first read this article, I was wondering whether AI researchers were rejecting the use of public data because of quality issues, but it's more about licensing and permission. I think, and there's a role now for organisations like sort of national licensing agencies to be able to license the use of these databases more readily for research.
Right, and moving on to the next story, which is titled, excuse me, let me reject non-essential cookies. This is from Sage Journals. It's an open access article called Disclosing Generative AI Use for Writing Assistants Should Be Voluntary. Very interesting. So the authors of the article argue that disclosure should be made voluntary because AI contributions are becoming integral and indistinguishable in the writing process. Interesting. Disclosing AI could lead to biases, especially against non-native English speakers, affecting peer review integrity, which is a valid point. Mandatory disclosure is impractical as it is hard to track AI versus human contributions precisely. That's also a very, very important point in the way that AI is being used. And finally, the author suggests using a voluntary checkbox for disclosure during manuscript submission, visible only after publication. Interesting. So I think that it should not be voluntary and the disclosure should be mandatory. And maybe the transparency as to who sees that, maybe peer reviewers won't see AI assistance has been used. Maybe that's an option that I'm willing to consider, but I believe in transparency. What are your thoughts?
Well, if you don't go down that particular route where you're hiding information from the reviewer, I mean, I suppose there is an argument that you might want to not disclose to the reviewer that this author has acknowledged the use of AI. But as you rightly said, and as the paper rightly says, it's becoming increasingly difficult to identify whether AI is being used or not. I think the horse has already bolted. We have to ask authors to say how AI is being used. I think the question then is how you then educate the reviewer to understand what is good and bad use of AI.
Right,
and how it might affect their review decision.
And so this let's say it's difficult to understand the provenance of thought or content because of the blend, sort of gray area between AI assistants and human writing and everything. And this is the reason why we have this product called DocuMark, which would sort of help students go through the entire process of making sure that the content that they write for, let's say, essays and assignments, they're going through the content to make sure that they take the ownership of each critical sentence or thought that they have.
Well, I think it's more than that. It's about making sure that somebody that's using AI is playing by the rules that are established by the institution. In the same way there are rules for things like plagiarism, there should be rules for the use of AI. And if an institution is saying no more than X% of the content can be generated using a generative AI tool, and if the student breaches that rule, then they failed. So as long as it should be used to measure. We can't stop students from using generative AI. There have to be rules in terms of how they're used, and guidelines, human guardrails to support that.
Yeah, and also the fact that if suppose you use generative AI for a let's say legitimate purpose, with the intent that it is being an aid or an assistant to you, with you still responsible for the content that you eventually get out of it. And so one of the aims of DocuMark is to ensure that the students are aware of what they are submitting, and they have some benefits in terms of learning outcomes because they go through this metacognitive process of verifying and validating the content that they are submitting. Isn't it?
Let me. There's an analogy, here, KK.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, in research, often what happens, and I think it depends from country to country. What happens is that there's a lead researcher, then you'll have junior researchers, maybe postgrads, who will do the literature discovery, who'll read the scientific articles, who'll maybe summarize the key points that might impact on the findings of the research, and then provide that information to the principal researcher. That principal researcher won't necessarily read all the articles; they'll read the summaries. How is this any different? You're rather than using a group of postgrads to do the work, you're using an AI to generate the same result.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point there, but what I'm trying to say is that currently this paper argues for the, let's say, the non-mandatory disclosure, right? That's one way of tackling the, let's say, potential biases
Yeah,
that maybe a non-native English speaker who might need AI assistance might face.
yeah.
Now,
The horse has already bolted, KK. You listen, this particular researcher, for whatever reason, has believes that it should be voluntary, not
yeah,
mandatory. I think now, the use of AI is so widespread that every publisher, every organization has to assume that every paper has been used generating AI,
yeah.
and it's up to the researcher, the author, to highlight where and how it's being used, so that it's not being seen to be generated completely AI.
Yes, and what you said is exactly right. But at the same time, publisher guidelines are not consistent, at least as per our research, and
Exactly. That's true.
Which is why we have responsible AI, and we would like publishers to join us in ensuring that things are clear, things are consistent in the context of AI assistance and disclosure criteria, so that authors will use AI responsibly, and eventually the society at large will benefit from the fact that the content that eventually gets published as a post peer review journal article, which is considered to be the source of truth, will actually be robust science itself. So that's the whole idea behind responsible AI as well. So Tony, would you like the audience to would you like to let the audience know where they can find more about responsible AI?
Sure. I think they just have to come to the inago.com website and search for responsible AI movements, and you'll be taken directly to the page, or Google it. I think you'll find it by Google as well.
Excellent. So moving on to a scholarly kitchen article, I believe. This is, we have talked about this this concept. The title of the article is AI Bots Knocking Down Digital Collections Offline, an interview with Michael Weinberg. So in a nutshell, bots swarm collections of data, overwhelming servers and reducing access. And this issue resembles the denial of service attack, but it is unintentional. So denial of service attack is abbreviated as DDoS. Now, solutions for this include anti-bot software, but they are not foolproof. And institutions, and we have talked about institutions like maybe even the society publishers, are struggling between open access and infrastructure protection. And Michael Weinberg thinks that the costs may rise and it may affect smaller institutions, and collective action is what is recommended, as we've been saying across the board in terms of such let's say such threats, the new threats because of AI bots. So any thoughts on this, Tony?
Only that one of the reasons why research is so much easier today is that these large digital collections exist. Access to content, access to journal archives, book archives exist, but they exist at a cost.
Right.
So as long as these tools are being used to help access to this licensed material, or whatever way the content owner wants to license the material, then fine. But if it's making it available to a wider audience without any sort of consideration in terms of license and use, then I would be concerned, from a publisher's perspective, about how I might maintain these databases and resources in the future, or whether I should, if there's no way of continuing to fund its ongoing development.
Right. Moving on to the last couple of related articles, both from Nature. The first one is a positive, let's say, title: AI slashes time to produce gold standard medical reviews, but skeptics urge caution. The first part is positive. So the topic that we are talking about is systematic review creation, which is a daunting task in medical research, and AI is speeding up things, but things are not fully automated yet. AI, in this article, the author talks about AI replicating 12 reviews in 2 days, a task that usually takes months. So we are talking about tremendous improvements in efficiency. Now, the technology is promising, but it needs more independent testing, and AI tools used in the study used improved screening and data extraction techniques. But current AI systems do not cover all review steps yet, and some researchers are skeptical about the full potential of it. And we are also talking about continuous updates for reviews that could lead to living reviews. We have talked about living documents and living research, and guidelines for AI, assistance and maybe involvement in evidence synthesis are still being developed. So there is a lot of hope for this. So I'll take a pause here and I'll ask you for your opinion about this entire story.
I think AI in peer review is inevitable. I mean, I know we're certainly developing a tool that will support the review process by creating a workspace for review using AI. And I think healthy skepticism is a good thing, because it then allowed you to sort of question assumptions and maybe the way the results are being delivered.
Right.
But unfortunately, I think everybody I've spoken to said, look, we may not like it, but AI in peer review is going to come if it's not already here.
Right. So I believe you're talking about a systematic review. So this is the story is about systematic review, which basically
it's just another type of review.
Yeah. Okay. So any type of review is what you're referring to, which I agree with. Okay. Fine. And the related story, it's a Nature comment article titled "Medical AI Can Transform Medicine, but only if we carefully track the data it touches." So what we're talking about is uncontrolled machine learning in medicine, which can distort patient data, and it is crucial to track the data that AI touches to maintain reliability, as per the article. And supervised machine learning, something that we do for our own products, AI models and everything, that can reduce the subjectivity in medical decisions, and predictive models can help save resources and reduce suffering of the patients involved. So the models do tend to absorb the biases from training data, affecting their reliability, and data contamination from AI predictions can degrade model performance as well.
Yeah.
And managing multiple AI models in healthcare settings also poses a challenge. And to be fair, I mean, there are so many aspects to this, but the whole idea is that you have to, when you create let's say an application for any purpose, be it for, let's say, grammar checking or for healthcare sort of related assistance, you need to employ AI guardrails, and we need to know how to train the model and what techniques to use so that eventually the outputs can be reliable. And this is why many of the publishers want to partner with Trinka for many of their copy editing requirements as well, right, Tony?
Well, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Guardrails are absolutely essential. No AI is perfect. The hallucinations are still possible. False data is still possible. Data contamination will happen as a result. And these are critical data sets that can inform transform healthcare. So no, I think guardrails are absolutely essential in every step of this process.
All right. So I'm not going to ask you if you're ready for quick hits, because you ought to be ready, because you refused once already in the episode. So, Tony, the first quick hit is already here. So this is based, this is an Anthropic article. So Anthropic CEO says, do not let AI companies off the hook. So this is in relation to the AI regulation story that we covered earlier. And the main point is that we need regulations in place. Otherwise, models could go rogue. And we've already talked about the potential risks of the models going rogue, and this is a wonderful graphic with the VLC player icon as well. So anyway, so what are your thoughts on this? How strong do you think that in terms of AI companies being kept in check by maybe policy as well as legal regulation, governmental regulations for this?
I think Dario, that the CEO of Anthropic is being very responsible. He understands the dangers and the pitfalls, as well as the benefits and the advantages of using AI, and I think he's right to insist that there should be some form of control and regulation.
Yeah, so he's arguing for a national standard for transparency in AI development, and rather than a 10-year moratorium on state regulations. And he believes in transparency will help public and lawmakers understand AI development. I completely agree with this. I mean, there's
the reason the Wild West was called the Wild West is because it was unregulated, it was uncontrolled. Let's not repeat that particular aspect of history.
Okay, moving on to a Guardian article. Ohio State University says all students will be required to train in AI. Interesting. So the university aims to prepare students to lead an AI-driven task force. AI will transform everything that it can potentially touch, and this entire thing is called AI fluency. And incoming freshmen, Tony, will be prioritized in the AI curriculum. And we have already talked about it. A recent study showed increased student use of AI tools in ChatGPT. And in fact, we covered a few episodes ago, ChatGPT for, you as soon as you enter a college, you also get your version of ChatGPT, which you are supposed to use throughout your course. So, there are so many aspects to AI and education. We talked about the risks. Now we need fluency in education, which is sort of goes hand in hand, because we are also talking about students needing to be aware of the potential of AI as well as the potential risks of it. And so ethics, education, AI training, everything sort of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. It relates back to the story we said earlier on about, the universities having diverging policies, or departments of having policies. AI is here. AI, we need to educate students as early as possible in the process to understand how to use it responsibly, ethically, and with the right kind of guardrails in place.
Right. And we have another article from the Scholarly Kitchen. This is based on a workshop report. So it's titled, "We Need AI Standards for Scholarly Publishing."
Couldn't agree more.
A NISO workshop report. I forget what NISO stands for. Yeah.
And so National Institute for Standards.
Yeah, National Information Standards Organization. So Todd Carpenter is writing this article, and it's about a workshop. And the some of the issues that were tackled included copyright, authorship, and research integrity. And these kind of workshops are aimed to prioritize efforts for AI interoperability in publishing. And the report suggests projects like usage tracking and attribution standards. The most important point, however, remains that collaboration with tech companies to better understand scientific content, as well as standard licensing models, and collaboration among, or interoperability among the publishers and vendors and institutions. Every sort of eventually every conversation comes to that point. And interoperable metadata is also mentioned, which I am personally very passionate about, because that will help us get the best data. So it touches a lot of different articles about where the publishing industry is going in terms of AI integration. Any further thoughts on this, Tony?
What standards do is that they provide a rail for the skeptical to lean on, or for the indecisive to be able to use to make their decision. If there are industry standards and they're thought through and they're clear, which organisations like NISO absolutely would be, and there's a DIN or there's a BSI standard, whatever it might be. That just makes the decision to implement AI so much easier and provides great transparency in terms of what best practice should look like.
Right.
So no, I would absolutely agree with this.
Right. And the next article, this is not the title that originally had, but it is titled "AI Makes Us All Think Alike," but the text of the article still remains the same as far as I can see. It's a critique on how AI is taking away our own cognitive potential and creative thinking and everything. And it basically warns users to not AI as a sort of a crutch, instead use it responsibly, which is the same thought. And the recommendations include the use of chain of thought prompting, which seems to improve the outputs and not maybe create the same mistakes, and maybe helps humans think better as well. We have covered many of these general, let's say, broad points in this previous let's say story related discussions, and this is also in line with what we believe what responsible AI stands for as well.
Yeah, I agree. No, I couldn't say. No, I agree.
Yeah. All right.
With all of them.
All right. Times Higher Education, AI's hyperbole making journal abstracts harder.
Hyperbole.
Okay, so I pronounce it, I think, the American way.
No, but it's hyperbole. Sorry, hyperbole.
Hyperbole, okay. Making journal abstracts harder to read. So the trend has been linked to the introduction of ChatGPT and similar tools. But let me just go back to the read-only version. This is much better. And scholars have noted an increase in words like unprecedented and exceptional. So these terms make papers harder to read, and even abstracts and summaries, AI-generated summaries have these, and basically urges caution in terms of excessive usage of AI, which is again something that we have talked about. What do you think about this, as in terms of?
Well, I'm not surprised, and often when you're trying to identify the use of AI. Those sorts of words within an abstract make it fairly obvious how they've used where AI has been used. One of the things that does surprise me is that what AI is very good at is creating plain language summaries. Why there aren't more plain language summaries attached to the abstract to make the article more widely accessible? Everyone's talking about impact, research impact, reaching a wider audience. Surely there should be there's an argument that you can use AI responsibly, and you can increase usage by making research content clearer to understand by creating more plain language summaries. But yes, I think this article in itself is correct, and that if you're using AI to generate abstracts, A, you're going to get a lot of repetition, and B, it's fairly easy to spot when AI is being used because of these uses of certain words.
Right. And the quick answer to why plain language summaries are not so prevalent is because to get the accuracy right, especially using AI assisted plain language summaries, it's a task. We have covered many stories where publishers have introduced AI summaries which have been met with backlash from the audience. So that's
that's the human guardrails. Guardrails. If they're wrong, it's the responsibility of the editor or the editor in chief, the editorial team to make sure that those summaries are accurate.
Right.
That's what editors are there for.
Yes, excellent. That's a point that I want to highlight. So coming to the last, I think, couple of stories. So this one is a sort of a text story, but we should keep an eye out for this. But why OpenAI and Microsoft AI partnership might be headed for a breakup. But this breakup in the context that obviously, if you have not been under a rock, you would know that Microsoft and OpenAI were in a partnership or are in a partnership. So there's tension because of OpenAI's acquisition of Windsurf, which is another sort of a startup, I believe, and concerns over intellectual property rights. And rumors suggest that OpenAI may file an antitrust complaint against Microsoft, and both companies have made significant investments and collaborations. So we have to keep an eye out for this. Tony, do you use Microsoft Copilot on your computer?
I have used Microsoft Copilot, yes.
All right. So I mean, some of the technology that is OpenAI, so we may not see it going ahead in the future. And to the last story now. This is an interesting article from, I think, the MIT Media Lab. It is titled "Your Brain on ChatGPT." So let me just read out. This project focuses on the cognitive impacts of using AI tools like ChatGPT. It examines the effect of learning when people use AI search engines or rely solely on their brains, which I think in the olden days, we only use our brains, apparently, not search engines. Participants, Tony, were divided into 3 groups: LLM, using AI, search engine, and brain only. And the study used electroencephalography, EEG, to measure brain activity, assessing cognitive engagement and load during tasks. And the findings showed differing neural patterns. Brain only had the strongest connectivity, while LLM assistants show the weakest connectivity. And the LLM group participants struggled with memory recall and ownership of their work compared to other groups. The research suggests a potential decrease in learning skills with AI use despite initial benefits. And the study is obviously aimed to provide a guide in terms of understanding AI's impact. But we must also take this with a sort of pinch of salt, because this is basically saying that any technological advances we've resisted as a society. Human beings have resisted change, and AI is here to say. You have said that, I think, 3 times already in this episode. So it might lead to some cognitive impairments, but at the same time, this is a reality, isn't it, Tony?
It is a reality, and it's how has the brain changed when the computer was introduced? How has the brain changed the way the brain works when the calculator was introduced? How has the brain changed? When there were changes in seed farming technology in the 19th century, seed. I mean, we're trying to understand the impact of AI on the human brain. And until we get to that point, it's important to have guardrails. It's important to understand what responsible use of AI looks like. In order to support the individual going through the process by trying to best educate themselves.
Excellent. And that brings us to the end of episode 84. Too much information. I believe this episode also had a lot of AI information.
There was too much information in this
So, Tony,
good choice of title.
Thank you very much. I believe you had a strong role in us coming up with that title. And Tony, 83 episodes, that may not be too much information, right? In the past, where can they find all the 83 episodes?
Well, as we said at the beginning of the episode, you just have to go to our to YouTube, search for Inago, and look for the PubShorts playlist, and you'll see all previous 83 episodes plus this one, of course. And if you please press share, press like, send us comments that we can include for future episodes, and thank you for those who've already sent comments through. And if you've got if you don't want to contact us via YouTube, you always contact us via LinkedIn. Or you can contact me directly at tonyo@inago.com.
Yeah, excellent, Tony. That brings us to the episode itself. I don't have anything more to say. So until the next time, this is Dr. KK signing off for Tony and the team that helps us bring such content to you. We will see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
See you in the next one.